All right, well, good morning, everybody. My name's Joel Arnold. I am the Planning and Advocacy Manager here at Communities First, and we are thrilled to welcome you to our second Community Candor live event here in Detroit this year, titled Women in Power Leading with Authenticity. This conversation is part of our wider Community Candor Live series. We do these in Flint as well, and we really try and focus on bringing people together for honest, meaningful dialogues on pressing local, national, and statewide issues. So, of course, we want to make sure that we thank our key sponsors here who help make this event possible. And if we can applaud after I kind of list them off, it's obviously fantastic. It's Ford, Comerica Bank, the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and of course our hosts here this morning, the Detroit Pistons. So we give them a round of applause. The very winning Detroit Pistons lately, might I add. So again, we're so happy to have you here this morning, and we've got some wonderful panelists who are going to be speaking and addressing issues that I think we're all interested in hearing what they have to say, some wonderful local leaders. But to say a few more remarks and then ultimately welcome them up, I'm going to ask our president and CEO here at Communities First, Glenn Wilson, to come up and say a few words. So Glenn, come on up.
All right, thank you so much, Joel. I appreciate that. This has been a heck of a morning with traffic. Can everybody agree? Can I get an amen? Amen. All right. No, well, thank you so much for coming. I guess, this is our second Community Candor this year. How many of y'all made it to the last one we had here? Can you raise your hands? All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming back here again with us and spending your time. I know that's something that's very valuable to each and every one of us is when we have time that we can spend, we get to choose that. And when you choose to spend that with us, especially with an organization like a name of Communities First, I always tell people you can't have a name like Communities if people don't show up. So that would definitely be detrimental for us. So thank you for showing up. Today, as you know, our panel has we have wonderful women that's going to be here with us. It's especially personal to me. And the reason why I say it's personal is not just because these are wonderful women as well, also because you'll even be able to see my co-founder, Chief Strategy Officer, and my wife, Essence Wilson, that be moderating the conversation today. But I tell people all the time when they ask, I said, I don't think y'all understand. I said, this woman is an executive and she can run this company probably better than me. And what I mean by that is, there is no less than, equal to. And right now, with all the stuff that's happening in the world, as a leader and just even as a man, we have to make sure that we're providing support to our women in the community to make sure that we're saying, hey, we want to see you succeed. We want you to understand that you're valued. There's not a less than. I mean, I don't know about you, but there is still gender inequality when it comes to getting equal pay for women in corporate jobs. That is not a good thing. That is not something that should be happening across America. People have value. They are there. We co-founded this thing. We run the organization together. We run our family together. And so I just always want to give her respect and let her know that I love her and I appreciate her, and you're awesome. So thank you so much for all you do. And thank you to all our guests and our sponsors for being with us today. And as you know, Communities First, we're a nonprofit community development organization located here. We're in Flint and Detroit. If you need more information, you can see information on your tables. And I always tell people the best nation in the world is donation. So as you see in the middle of your table, you got those QR codes. If you want to, please take a moment, make a contribution. As you see, you have an opportunity to come here and be in these spaces. We want to make sure that we're creating equitable spaces for people, that things do not have you disconnected, but making sure that we're creating spaces that you can come and connect with wonderful people in the community, other leaders, neighborhood individuals. You have a mix of all different types. Businesses in this space of people that's coming to be a part of this conversation. So don't just talk to the people you know. If you see somebody you don't know, you make eye contact with them, say hello, shake their hand. This is a place also for you to network. So don't get pigeonholed and just into the conversation, but pay attention to the few minutes after the event is over and make sure you come and you shake. And these wonderful women that's gonna be up here today, I know them, they're gonna be more than welcome to shake your hand. So don't feel any way shy about, I don't know if I should go. So if you come here and I really wanted to meet her and she your shiro, come up here and talk to her, okay? Do that, all right? Because this is going to be very exciting. Right now, we're also in the middle of fundraising campaigns. And so if you got an idea and you got something that you want to do big, take that opportunity and reach out to us. We have ways for you to get involved with your time, talent, or your treasure. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our moderator so we can go ahead and get this panel started. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am so glad to see so many beautiful faces. I'm going to ask our panelists if you could come on up, have a seat, get settled in as I am going to read your bios. So come on. Wherever you would like to be, whatever is comfortable for you.
Can't fall off.
No. The chairs are always a little bit dangerous, right? I laugh because they always have a bio for me or something about me to read, and I always skip it. But today I will say I am co-founder and chief strategy officer at Communities First. I thank you, Glenn, for the kind words that you shared this morning regarding me. That's all y'all getting. All right, so we have with us Linh Song, who has over 20 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, supporting child advocacy, public education, and anti-trafficking efforts and tech startups. She is the co-founder and chair of the Song Foundation, which invests in people and organizations advancing equity and quality of life in Southeast Michigan. A first-generation American and committed to equity, Linh holds 2 degrees from the University of Michigan. We won't hold that against you. And go green! That didn't go how I was hoping. No. It's all love. She serves on several boards, including Skillman Foundation and the State Land Bank Authority. All right, and we also have with us, sorry, I'm not going in exact order here, but we also have with us Vivian Pickard. She is a distinguished Fortune 500 executive and president and CEO of the Pickard Group, advising corporate and nonprofit leaders on strategy, business development, and community impact. She previously served as president of the General Motors Foundation, and I think that was where I first met you many years ago, and director of corporate relations, overseeing more than $80 million in annual giving and shaping GM's global philanthropic strategy. Vivian serves on numerous civic and cultural boards, has earned multiple national awards for her service, and holds an MBA from Central Michigan University and a bachelor's and honorary doctorate from Ferris State University. All right. We have with us Tonya Berry, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at CMS Energy Corporation and Consumers Energy Company, bringing more than 20 years of leadership experience across electric and gas operations. A passionate advocate for STEM and community impact, she has earned national recognition for her work and serves on several nonprofit and academic boards. She holds engineering and business degrees from the University of Michigan and Wayne State University. And we also have Melanie Harris, who is the president of business operations for the Detroit Pistons, leading the organization's business strategy, revenue growth, and fan engagement. She previously held top leadership roles at Nike, including vice president and general manager of the Jordan brand North America and vice president of strategy and development. Melanie began her career as a partner at Bain & Company and is a graduate of Yale University and Harvard Business School. So I will tell you just how dynamic and awesome and amazing you all are. We had to cut off registration. We have received emails from folks that said, can I please just sneak in the door? Can you record it? Is there gonna be a next time? So you all are amazing individually and collectively, and people want to hear from you and hear what you have to say. So we're gonna get started, and we have a couple of mics up here, so we'll have to pass those back and forth. But we're gonna start with, we read the bios. We know what has been put out to the world about who you are and what you have done, but tell us a little bit more. Give us a bit of insight as to how you have journeyed in your career and who you are at your core. What drives you? What motivates you? So that's a big question. Take it however you'd like, and we'll start with you, Lynn.
I don't know if is this on? Can you all hear me okay? So I think you've called me a philanthropist. Is it working? So I'm the chair of the Song Foundation, founder of the Song Foundation. I still think it's really strange to be described as a philanthropist because for most of my life, or early in my life, I've been on the other side, where I'm first generation. My parents were refugees from Vietnam. Grew up in Dearborn. I'm a WIC baby. So for me, it's very strange to think, oh, now we're in this position. My husband and I are in a position to give back to our community. So I never, ever dreamed that I'd be able to do this work. My mom is still confused as to what it means. She just wonders. She just worries if we have insurance. She's like, "Are you fully insured? And are you okay?" It's like, "Yes, we are. We are." I came to this because, my parents gave us a really good example of how you care for community. They were one of the first to be resettled in this country, and they always made sure other folks were okay. And same with my husband. We both grew up in communities where we saw our parents give back. And when my husband sold his company and we started this foundation, it was a result of us really acting on our own lived experiences, who we come from, what we come from. And also, honestly, I don't think we know how to be properly rich, which is what I tell folks. we just don't. We are workaholics, and we have young children, or actually they're not young, they're 15 and 20 now. But the commitment to community is also work. So I feel like this is continued work so that, we can show our own kids, like our parents showed us, how to be always looking to your community for guidance, for inspiration, and then also for opportunities to come in as allies in partnership in the work ahead.
Thank you for that. I love that. And I'll tell you all, mom worry is a real thing. Communities First is 15 years old, and I think for the first at least 8 years of the organization's existence, she was still sending me job opportunities. Yeah. She's like, no, you need a real job that pays you real money and insurance. And so same concerns, right? So mom worry is a real thing. And even when you said your children, they're 15 and 20, so I wouldn't describe them as young, but in your heart, right? Like they're still your babies. I don't know where the time goes. So the same question for you, Tonya. How did you get here and who are you at the core?
I don't know how I got here, other than I do say my faith tells me my path has been planned, and I've been very deliberate and being thoughtful about having a purpose-driven life, not worrying about what is next, but being ever present in the now. And each opportunity that has presented itself, because I've been incredibly blessed, each opportunity has presented itself to be a steward of the gifts that I have, to give them to that opportunity at the point in time. And I do believe, because I've been incredibly faithful in that, it has opened the door for the next. So it has been every opportunity. When I started at Blue Cross Blue Shield as an engineer, whether it's been in the autos for over 13 years, and now at Consumers Energy, and every role I've taken there, never asked for one, just prayed that I want to wake up every single day and make a difference in people's lives. And whatever that is, and leverage the gifts and become a learner and a good steward of what I've been given and blessed and learned within that. And that's sort of how the doors have sort of opened for me. I didn't seek after. It was more about growing for me and taking the lessons that I've learned along the way and try to instill that. I have 2 children. We were talking about that, 14 and 17, so that 9th and 12th grader that continue to teach me incredible lessons. That's been kind of the spirit. I was just talking to someone actually last night on the phone, and we said, when you are not living in your purpose, you dread Monday, you dread Tuesday, you dread the late night phone call. I don't dread that right now. And I think it's also being really real with yourself, that if you dread it, you may not be in your purpose. And if your purpose is aligned up for a title or financial, I believe that can all get to the outcome of the things. You're not in your purpose. And so I am very purpose-driven, and I just think about that. And does it match? And if it feels like it's not matching, I get in prayer, and usually something else typically happens wonderful because I try to be very deliberate in listening and discerning what is given to me. So in my life and the way I was raised by both my parents is really driven by faith and in the now, not worrying about what's next, because we spend so much time on the next, you miss the lessons in the now. So not perfect at it, but very deliberate in it. I do read often. I think what I've determined, I might have even shared this with Glenn at one point in time, my true title is Chief Joy Officer. There's a book by Richard Menlo, if you have not made it, and I said it from when I was a frontline leader to today. When they say, what's your title? And I typically introduce myself, I said, I'm the Chief Joy Officer, and that's when I want to exhibit in life, whether it's personally, professionally, and so that's how I got here.
Yes, I love that, love that. I just hear, how important your faith is to you and being kind of led and guided and not seeking out the role that we wish to have, but doing an excellent job in the role that we have, appreciating that and being open to new opportunities, right? So that's a beautiful thing. Great nuggets, don't miss that. That's not lost. That's powerful. And the same question for you, Melanie. How did you get here and who are you at your core?
Well, how I got here was through a lot of traffic this morning.
That part.
But after I got through the traffic, I do want to take the moment to welcome all of you to the Henry Ford Health Pistons Performance Center, and thank you for being massive Detroit Pistons fans. We are on an 11-game winning streak and are sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference, and the only team in the whole world who has a record comparable to ours won the World Championship last year. So continue to be Detroit Pistons fans, and that is a bit how I got here, really. So we mentioned, motherhood. I'm a mother too. I'll shout out my children. They're 10 and 12, so I don't know if I'm gonna have the record for the babiest babies up here, but I do credit my mother and my grandmothers, and I had the great fortune to be raised in a 2-parent home, so I don't discount the role that my father played. And I had the great fortune I still have a living grandmother. She's 97 years old, but God bless her, I'll see her next week on Thanksgiving. But I had also the great fortune in going into my adulthood to have all 4 grandparents around. So I really do credit for me, that was the core of my community. But I go back to women and motherhood because for me, being able, you mentioned I started my career as a partner in Bain & Company. That may be where I started my executive career. But I started working on the retail floor when I was in high school. So I was working from a relatively young age, earning a living, and I spent my entire career up until this day in service. And so I think now in what I do, leading the business part of our organization, I'm not on the court. We have a GM and we have a head coach who's managing all the core of what we do, but I get to manage everything else, including every time you're in the arena, hoping to see every single fan's face smile and cheer. And that was how I started when I was, 16 years old, helping someone find a purse at Loman's, a discount retailer in the Bronx. That many remember shopping at Loman's. And I, from there, I'll also add, I was an athlete for my whole life, and that ability to not only learn how to win, but learn how to lose. and get up and believe in yourself. That started with my home life. My parents, my mom in particular, always told me I was the only girl of the sibling set, that I had every right, and in fact, more of an opportunity to achieve, even if people didn't believe that I deserved to be there. And so that self-belief, that ability to fail and get up and try again, and the desire to serve and make people happy, I think are all things that started really early in my life. And I give credit to my family, my mom, my grandparents, seeing them be able to fail, as you described, as first-generation Americans too, and work their way up. And from there, I went to college. You mentioned I went to Yale. That was a guidance counselor at my public high school saying that telling me I had the ability to do it, and guiding me in how to, study for my SATs and help me with my applications and all of that. So I also believe now in the position that I think we all are in, everyone in this room, that we have the opportunity to reach out and give someone else that belief in themselves. Because that's one of the things that gave me a vision to see what was possible for me. So I went from there. I continued to work in retail, actually. I worked in corporate retail at Abercrombie & Fitch and Macy's. And I had a mentor who encouraged me to go to business school, which is not something that I had on my life map. And that's where I discovered consulting and then went into Bain & Company. I only raised that because in addition to believing in people, I think it's really important, and I make this part of my mission, to help people see the path that others may not put in front of them and they might not know for themselves. So all of those things, I think, are what led me to this moment. I then, as you mentioned, went to Nike, and that was because the CEO of Bain was friends with the then CEO of Nike and put my name on the table. I wasn't looking for it. And then I've had the great honor, this is my second season with the Pistons, and it was very much the same thing. There was someone else who was in the sports world who put my name in front of Arn Tellem and then Tom Gores, and I got a chance to meet them. And I learned so much about what this organization means, not only in the world of sports, but to this community. I am maybe the only one who's not a native Detroiter, but I am one now. My children are now, and I've been so embraced. But what I looked forward to when I joined this team and this community was being part of the community. And so one last thing I'll say, and how I got here and why it was a little bit of a struggle this morning, is we were all here. Our ops, our business and basketball ops, all of our players across the Pistons and the Motor City Crews here last night, if you look out that window, serving the community. We had 400 families come through and together with our partners of Kroger and StockX and others, our fans came and were giving non-perishable goods, turkeys, milk, toys, books. And not only here, we did it all throughout the city during the morning, over 1,000 families served. So that being able to be part of an organization that feels not only the opportunity to bring joy through sport, but also to bring impact is something that was really important to me in joining the Pistons. And I hope that we all take that spirit as we think about how we can impact the communities we're a part of.
So I think I win the award for the babiest babies.
Okay.
We have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Ooh, you might have some babysitters.
We are free this morning, okay? And I'm laughing because I just got a text message from my mother who's watching the children, but I'm not going to look at it because I don't want to cry. It's probably one of those cute little moments, right, that you missed. But, I just want to say thank you to you for all of the work that you're doing with the Pistons. This is a winning team, y'all. It is happening. This is amazing. And Communities First has had this opportunity to partner with the Pistons and, do some really cool stuff this year. And so, being able to utilize this space and also, have some tickets available, and we have this great relationship. So, our fund development person is here, so hopefully I'm okay in doing this. But that we're in the midst of this campaign to do this fundraiser. If you have made a ticket donation, or if you make a donation today, we will put your name in a raffle to win tickets in a suite to an upcoming Pistons game. All right? Donation of any amount. And there's QR codes on your table. So just want to offer you that opportunity to share in the joy and also because the energy in that space is amazing, and you have truly created an awesome fan experience. So, Just saying, you could be there with us and enjoy. And so same question to you, Vivian. How did you get here, and what motivates you and keeps you going?
First of all, good morning, everyone. And I want to just do a shout out for all of my good friends that are here. And I know some of you are extremely busy and that you're here for this breakfast. You know who you are. So, and that you would take the time to come out to hear what we have to say this morning. So ladies, we have to say something because we got some very important people in this room. So in terms of who I am and where I came from, I am Vivian Pickard. I grew up in Sturgis, Mississippi until the age of 16, then moved to Flint, Michigan, and then from Flint, Michigan to Detroit. And in terms of giving, my grandfather owned his own business, and for many of us, we start our giving in the church. My grandfather provided all of the lumber from his business to build the church in Sturgis, Mississippi. And from the time that I was, what I can remember, we always, and many of us in this room, I don't care what your allowance was that week, you always had to walk through that Sunday morning and give a portion of that money to the church. So we learned very early, or I learned very early, the necessity to give. In addition to that, the individuals that worked for my grandfather, they were always just as much a part of our table for dinner every evening as we were. My mother was a very, very strong woman. My father was a very strong man, and they instilled in us. I am from a family I have 9 siblings, and my mother and father were very, very strong. And my father's goal was that every one of his kids were going to go to college, and especially his girls. His philosophy was that my girls will be able to take care of themselves. He never wanted his girls to be dependent on a man to take care of them. And I thank him for this day that was his push. I was with General Motors in Flint, Michigan. And then I was moved to the tech center, and from the tech center to headquarters. And much like a couple of you have said, I really admire young people who decide, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a doctor, I want to be something. I never knew what I wanted to be, and I still do not know what I want to be. But one of the things that I have always done, I've always worked very hard and did my best at whatever position that I was given. I tell people at General Motors, I have done everything other than be a doctor and a lawyer. I've worked in all departments of General Motors, including, I started out at the plant in Flint, so I have worked literally all over. So I understand the complexity of a major company such as General Motors. Every position that I was given at General Motors, somebody saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And in terms of my becoming president of the General Motors Foundation, when I was 27 years old and was transferred from Flint to Detroit, I met a man that was working for the Boy Scouts. And he said to me, he said, Vivian, we have so many young boys here who do not have the funds to become scouts. And his belief was that if we can get them off the streets and in scouts, we can save these young men. And I have no idea. And I think back to this day, and I don't know how the heck I got it started, but every year, a group of my friends, and I'm going to date myself. You ladies here probably have never heard of Club Pentas. How many of you remember Club Pentas? Oh, you can raise your hand. She turned around. Well, Club Pentas was this club in the Fisher Building, and that it was our hangout. So I decided with my girlfriends that we were going to have a fundraiser every year to raise money to support these young Black men that did not have the funds to become scouts. And to this day, it's like, Vivian, how did you even think about that? Why did you even decide to do that? But we did this continuously for a number of years. And that, I think, in terms of my real giving and trying to serve and make a difference in my community, I think that was the start. Consequently, throughout all my years at General Motors, I worked in all different departments. And there was one of our leaders, one of our senior VPs at GM. He came to me and he said, Vivian, I have watched you over the years. He said, not only do you do a great job in your job, but you also do a great job in trying to make a difference in our community. And he said, I'm going to revamp our total philanthropic area of General Motors, and I need you to come and help me revamp it. So a couple of years later, didn't hear anything. So finally, he was given the responsibilities of totally revamping all of our corporate giving, and I went in to support it. And then consequently, over the years, when during the bankruptcy and all that was going on in 2008, 2009, I said to senior leadership, I said, please tell me, as you all know, everybody was getting laid off and it was crazy. It was a crazy world, especially in southeastern Michigan. I said, I don't want to be any place that I am not wanted. So if I need to leave, tell me now. Don't talk behind my back. And that's what I told our senior VP. And he said, no, Vivian, we want you to stay. And if you stay, we'll make it worth your while. And then I was named to president of the General Motors Foundation. But I was honored that I was named into that position because it gave me an opportunity to make a difference in my community. And one of the first things that I did was developed the Buick Achiever Scholarship Program. And extra points were given to individuals that was the first in the families to go to college. And we know who those individuals are. And I watch parents cry because their kids were very, very smart, but they had no idea how they were going to send them to college. And we were giving individuals full rides to major institutions. So that was probably one of the proudest things that I have done in terms of my philanthropic giving, because I know that we made a difference in a lot of families. And having that first one to go to college really does make a difference. I know for myself, I'm from a family of 9 siblings, and my oldest sister says, my dad said, you're going to college. She goes, but we have 9 siblings. My dad said, you're going to college. So when you have that strength and have that first one to make a difference, it makes a difference. We had a person at General Motors, of one of our vice presidents, who was from a family of 12. He was the baby, and he went to college as the youngest one, but consequently, all of the nieces and nephews are now going to college. So we know the significance of getting that first one to attend college. So in terms of who I am, I have no idea who I am. I'm still Vivian Pickard trying to figure out who the heck I am, but I do know that I enjoy making a difference in my community and giving back. And I have a really wide variety of interests that I care about. And I try to do my best to really, really make a difference.
And so while I recognize that I'm not a panelist, right, I just have this, as I was sitting here listening to each of you and how I'm connected to you, although a few of you I haven't met or worked with directly. So this is going to be interesting, right? So my undergraduate degree is in engineering, mechanical engineering. What's your industrial? Okay, yeah, okay, no. No, I'm just teasing. Right, so in mechanical engineering, I worked for General Motors for several years, and when GM went through bankruptcy, I had that pivot point opportunity, and had an opportunity to start Communities First, right, where we're now working doing housing work, right, which connects to what you do, and we are in partnership with the Pistons, right? So it's just amazing how our stories and journeys are all very different, but also there's those elements where there's connectivity. So as you're thinking about one another, and it might seem like people are in totally different worlds than you, there is something that connects you to someone else in this room, and that networking piece is so key. So sometimes we just have to find that common thread. so that we can continue to relate and continue to work together. So anyhow, we'll move on to our next question. What do you see as some of the major barriers for women being in positions of power and leadership? We can start with whoever would like to go first.
I can start first, and I will speak to kind of my career and what I saw at General Motors. The major barrier is both internal and external systemic cultural biases. And I think if you guys go back to, let's take Hillary Clinton, let's take Kamala Harris. All of those strong women traits in those women, the strong traits that are traditionally seen as a plus for men, for women. Michelle was the crazy black woman. Hillary was the crazy white woman, right? So then the being kind and nice, when you see those in the traits of a man, it's like, oh, he's a great leader. He's so kind. He gets it. He's a very kind. But when you see that in women, it's seen as a negative. So I think we have double standards when it comes to making a difference. In addition to that, many of us, we are in these rooms with great leaders. One of the things that my admin said to me was that, Vivian, the thing I like about you most of all is that you treat the CEO and the leadership on the 39th floor the same way you treat the janitor and the admins. And I'm going to tell you, the admins were the ones, to me, that made the difference in our department. They came up with much better ideas than the leadership did.
Listen, the admins will get you the meeting.
Exactly.
Or deny you the meeting, and the janitor knows all the business and what's going on.
Trust me, the admins were my friends. And the other thing, too, one of the barriers, too, they will move men around and give them all kind of different assignments. But I say one of the reasons why I was successful as president of the foundation is because I knew GM. I knew the company. I knew what was important to I knew what was important to marketing. I knew what was important to finance. I knew what was important to HR. So consequently, I tried to lead with the idea that I led my team that every dollar that was spent on philanthropic giving or cause-related marketing, that dollar had to try to make a difference for every component of General Motors. So again, I think we have a tendency, we will move people, the leaders, they will move individuals around and take a risk on an individual. But when it on a male, but when it comes to us, we have to have all of the chips in the bag before a person will take a risk on us. So again, I think it's basically systemic, the culture of us internally and externally. Women are just not yet really accepted as being the CEO, of being the president, of being even the vice president. So we have a lot to do in our country, and I don't know if we're going to see it in our lifetime. And I think any of the individuals that have been in those positions will tell you the same thing, that we're not ready. And unfortunately, a lot of the women are not ready. A lot of the women are not ready to see leaders, to see CEOs, to see a female president. So the mindset of so many of us, it has to be changed.
Yeah, so we've come a long way. We still got a long way to go. All right, so same question. You ready? Yes, please. Yes.
All right. So where Vivian was going, but I also want to pull a slightly different thread on that. Women, we get in our own way too. So I'm going to tell you, hold the mirror, because it's also a story I believe you also tell yourself, they. but what about you too? And so I do think there's an opportunity for you to reflect too. What are the things you are not doing? And it goes back to exactly what Vivian was saying. She said she knew everything, right? She got in there, she learned the departments. How many of us don't do that and you wait for somebody else to do or tell you to go do it yourself? So that's an opportunity, I think, for you to continue to think about how to go get your own growth so you can. Also, I think we shut our own voices sometimes. So even when you're in the room, do you take the seat that you have at the table and use your voice? Sometimes you shut down your own voice. And sometimes, they may not hear you, but keep using your voice. And then I'm going to say, additionally, don't count those men out that are advocates for the women. I will tell you, I'm here today. My CEO, Emil, Glenn knows him very well, Gary Rochow. We just reorganized the company, actually, in July. I took my role here, Chief Operating Officer. I lead 70% of the company now. This role has not been in place for 15 years. The last 15 years that it was in place, it was held by a man. All right, and so now I have the role today. And, I was talking to him and I said, hey, you just reorged the company. Did you take a look at the company and did you look at all these vice presidents? I said, we had a lot of movement in the company, but I said, do you realize you promoted 6 women in this last? He said, I did. I said, I know. I said, I know you don't know that because I know you believe you put the best person in the job. I know that's not why you went, but I said, here's what I know. Post-pandemic, we had a lot of women question themselves in the workplace, and even more recently, given this external environment, I'll say, women question themselves in the world as we question policies and sort of things. And so I said, thank you for being an incredible, great example, because I think our women are finding this an incredible place to work. And I said, now we have more work to do. We're not finished yet. But I said, a lot of women that are questioning, can I be a mom? Can I be a leader? Can I do the all and all and all? You gave women, I said, where there are over 28 vice presidents that sit in this company, you just promoted 6 in there. I said, never been done in the history of the company. I said, I say that to say, I remind him because he's like, oh yeah, I'm just doing it. But I'm like, people are watching. And so, as we get recognized even as a company for those contributions, and, I just tell women, don't get on your way. But also, we also have an incredible responsibility to each one to reach one. So when you do get there, turn around, go tell the truth, pull the women in the room and sort of let them know. But also just say, turn the mirror a little bit too, in that too, right? What are you doing or not doing too? Because it's easy always to point out, look into, so you can kind of create that two-way kind of going forward. So.
And Lynn, same question for you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I would say invite yourself into the rooms that you want to be in. The boards that I serve on, I think half of them I invited myself onto. And I think it was because there were a lot of white men in charge of some interesting work and policy discussions. And I said, I think you need me. Actually, you do need me. I'm going to sit right next to you. And we're going to make these decisions together. And it's something that I think I had to do growing up, too. I joke a lot about how being an ESL learner and translating for my parents, spending a lot of time trying to figure out what white people are telling us. What are they saying? What does it mean? What do they really mean? And where do we fit in this whole big scheme of things? So I've gotten to the practice of not only advocating for my family, for my community, but for myself. And also just really pushing back against the idea that I am known in relation to my amazing husband. Love this man. But, when folks ask, are you married to Doug Song? I say, oh, no, he's married to me.
That's good. I like that.
I am the better half, everyone. And folks are, the misogyny is a real thing. I feel like we have to just say the word, name the thing, And I'm raising my son's 20, my daughter's 15, and I refuse to believe that I have to prepare my children the way that my own mother had to prepare me. for these harsh realities. Like for her, it was like, this is a reality of being a poor, non-white kid, and maybe you'll have to settle just to be okay. And for me, I tell my kids, you're second generation born in this country. English is your first language. You've never felt unsafe. You've never been evicted, right? You've never known poverty, but you've been afforded every privilege to do well, but be mindful of your friends and your peers around you, like name the names, name racism, name misogyny, speak up when something's happening. And so, I've got kids who are bolder than I was growing up, and I feel like the barriers that we see are the barriers that sometimes we kind of preserve because we're afraid, right? Or we're alone in these situations. So I feel like one of the obligations we have is to not only name names, but bring folks alongside us. I joke that I wear a couple hats. I was also on city council in Ann Arbor for 4 years, and then a library trustee before that. So, I've had the confidence of my community. People actually voted for me, which is an amazing honor, right? And the barrier there was that, in a supposedly progressive community, we were fighting the idea that we had problems. So even though Ann Arbor is the 8th most economically segregated community in the U.S., the life expectancy difference between white residents in Ann Arbor and black residents in Ipsy Township, the difference is 14 years. So when I say name names and name barriers, as women working in either politics and community and philanthropy and the private sector, we have to name the names of the hurt in our communities, and not just the barriers to us trying to make progress, but how do we make progress with others, alongside others. So I was very, very insistent. I told folks when I was in office, I'm very lonely in this seat. I need friends here. Ann Arbor had not had a black representative on council for 15 years when I was on there. So I recruited 2 black council members from the community. I'm not actually from Ann Arbor, I'm from Dearborn. So, and I was born in Columbus, so that tells you all about what I'm trying to do in this city where I live. But I think there are these barriers. We have to work to resist them. We find friends to work alongside us. And I always feel like as women, we always think about the long game. It's always the long game. It's not by political cycles. It's, it can't be by like life expectancy differences. It means generational work, multi-generational work, where every effort we put into community and we put into ourselves, into our children, has to come to something, and I want the same privileges that my children have that I experience for everyone, so for us it's fighting those barriers, but not pulling the ladder up behind you either. Yeah.
And so Glenn and I work together, so we often will have somebody say, oh, I was talking to your husband. You were talking to Glenn, and it's only because that it is a nuanced thing, right? So in this context, if we're talking about something that's work-related, we're talking about Glenn in his role as president and CEO and me in my role as chief strategy officer. And it's important to make those distinctions because in our own right, regardless of who we're married to, who our children are, what our job is, we have a clear identity of who we are as individuals in the work that we're doing, in the family that we exist in, right? Yeah. So our next question is,
May I just add one more thing to that?
Sure.
And one of the things that I always say, too, that women will not evolve in senior leadership until white men stamp that I'm going to support you and be a part of. That's going to be the first thing. And then number 2, black women are not going to reach those leadership perspectives until the white woman say it's okay. So unfortunately, it's going to be two kind of tracks that we'll have to go in. We have to get the women, period, have to get that stamp from the white man, and then they're going to take care of the white women. And then the white women, they have to realize they have to bring us along. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So again, we as the black women that are in the room, we have a lot of work to do.
And we have to find champions in a lot of different places. Is there something that you wanted to share? Go ahead.
I wanted to hit on two things. First, excuse me, you mentioned the long game, and one thing I work undeniably in a male-dominated space.
A little bit.
And you think about bastions of masculinity, what often comes into your mind are either the military or, or sports. And one of the things I had to learn, even before I was working in sports, I was working in other industries where I was often the only woman in the room or at the table, and I know many women have had that experience. What I found myself doing was trying to do it all. And I just wanted to put a word of caution. I know where it comes from. I mentioned earlier, my mom said, I could do it. She believed in me, but it was always also the undercurrent of you're going to have to work twice as hard. Many of us have heard that. And there was a turning point in my career where I said, if I'm going to make it to 97 years old like my grandmother, I have to think about the long game. And I had a turning point where I said, I'm only going to do the things only I can do. So I'm not going to be the woman who's the last one in the room making sure all the, confidential documents are off the table, or making sure that I've double-checked where we need to be, even though I may be more senior than the other people in the room and all of that. I was going to take all of those things off my plate and move myself from a position of, I need you to see me, and I need to prove to you that I deserve to be here, to a place of, I know I have a seat at this table. I've earned this seat at this table. You didn't give it to me. And that's just a slight pivot, and it may be a generational shift or something, but it's like, I actually don't believe, and I give credit to the men who were in the room who put my name into the table, but I don't believe it's because they were doing a public service. It's because they saw the work and the value that I had, and in order to create space to do that, in order to create longevity, I had to let go of the things that other people could do. And so that's one thing I want to put in there. And the other thing is, and I go back to people who believed in me that helped me to develop my own self-confidence, is that the things that I know I can do better than anyone else is to be myself. So the other thing was to take off this imposter syndrome and saying, in order to be a woman that excels, I have to put on masculine traits. I have to speak the language that they speak. I have to follow the path that they followed. In fact, my road has been leaning into who I am and what I can bring uniquely to the table as maybe the one woman or the one whatever the attribute is in the room. So I just wanted to put those two things into this space. I recognize the systemic barriers and the power structure and all of this, but I think there's a slightly different angle that some of us can take, which is I don't have anything that I need to prove. I deserve to be here, so I'm going to do the things that I can do, that only I can do, and leave the rest to someone else because I don't have to prove that I can do it all, and that helps with my longevity. It helps, and you need it more as you become a spouse and a mother and all those things because there's so many other pulls in your time. And then also that because I deserve to be here and all that I've done, I'm going to be my full self. And that also gives a certain lightness, and also I think presents to the younger women, in my opinion, who are coming after me, that there's room for them at the table because they're seeing different images of what success looks like. It's not all one archetype.
Very good.
Sure. And we're not a threat, right? So I have this practice of telling folks who get a little nervous about who I am, what I'm saying, what I'm doing. I just say, you're welcome. You're welcome. And then some folks cut on, they'll say, I didn't say thank you. I said, oh, no, you're welcome. This is good work. We're good together. You might not realize it, but you're fine. Yeah. I'm not a threat. We're partners. We'll get through this.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate, the context, right? So there are some systemic issues that we all are aware that exist. But there are spaces, there are places, there are people, right, who are well aware of that also and have started to remove some of those things, right? And there are spaces that we can be in where we are welcomed, where we are celebrated. And, Tonya, when you talked about, he didn't even know, because his intention was not to promote 6 women. The intention was to promote the 6 best people, and they happen to be women, right? So it's and a few people of color in that, right? So it's a dual situation, right? As we are addressing the system, but it's only because those women did what you said, right? They were authentically themselves. They were skilled. They were open to opportunity. They had what it took to do the job, right? So we have to be aware of all of those dynamics that are at play, and we are not, and I worked for GM, right? So I know what that experience in that environment was like, but I think about what you said about inviting yourself into rooms that you want to be in. And I would say also that you need to be in, where your voice is lacking and you need to be heard, right? So there are these opportunities that we can create for ourselves. We can create rooms. I had a young lady today, she said, I have been craving women's events where I can learn and I can grow, and I'm seeing heads nod, right? We can create those spaces. We can create those rooms. I'm seeing these heads nod, so when you get all done, let them know at the table you want to be invited to the room. Let's just create the room and make it happen. We are a little limited on time because we could do this all day. Each one of you are, your own TED Talk, conference, all of the things. But we do have limited time this morning. So I have two questions, and I'll ask you to pick which one you want to answer and answer as concisely as you can. The first one is, authenticity is at the heart of today's theme. And Melanie, you've already spoken to this, but how have you balanced staying true to your authentic self while navigating spaces that may not always be welcoming or inclusive? And what are some of those strategies that we can use?
I will say that, as I mentioned earlier, I'm Vivian Pickard. I grew up in Sturgis, Mississippi, from Flair to Flint, and then from there to Detroit. I am who I am. If I'm in the room with 50 women, or if I'm in the room with 50 CEOs, I am Vivian Pickard. And people in the room know that I'm a Black female in that room. And I've been in the room where others have ignored things, if you will, where they should have spoken up. But my reputation at GM was that I was always very candid with my opinion, and my reputation was, if you ask her opinion, she's going to give it to you. And I will never forget being in the room where major decisions were being made about some grants. But the money was being taken away from a major event that was all white. And that was all Black. And then the money was going to be given to the white organization. And I said, you know what, why are we doing this? And I challenged, that was probably one of my first foundation meetings, to challenge the leadership of GM as to, you know what, we need to think about what we're doing before we make these kind of decisions. And again, that making sure that we were inclusive, to me, was always very valuable. And one of the things that I tell people that are not in Detroit or that are in Detroit, those of you, I'm dating myself again, who remember Coleman Young, one of the things that Coleman Young taught us, you are supposed to be in the room, number one. Number two, if you're going to be in the room, you have to speak up on behalf of your community. You look like a fool to me if you're in a room with 50 CEOs and something is being done to impact your community and you don't speak up. They look at you like you're stupid. So that's not a way of getting ahead, or going alone is not going to get you ahead. People see who you are. So you really, if you're in the room, make a difference that you're in the room. And they need intelligence from everybody. So when you're in the room, again, speak your mind. That's why you're in the room. And that's why corporations that are successful, I don't know if you all remember the statistics back in, when our company was in shambles back in 2008, 2009. The companies that were led, I don't know if you all remember, by very diverse leaders and had very diverse leadership on their board and with their staff, those are the companies that did well. Much better than the ones that did not have the diversity. So the diversity of mind, diversity of people make a difference. But don't just be in the room and be the black female or the white female or the whatever, or the Latino, whatever it is. Be yourself. Be your authentic self, because that's why you're in the room. People look to you for different opinions.
All right, and I'm going to ask Tonya if you could answer the same question. Just kind of how do you're in an amazing role, leading 70% of the company. How do you maintain that authenticity?
Yeah, I start the meeting when I go in the room because I am unapologetic, because I am who I am. And if I can't be who I am, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. But when I go in the room, I say, good morning. My name is Tonya Berry, rapper named T Breezy. We can talk about it a little bit later on what that means. They're like, okay, well, hello, right? And so that kind of, I do say that. They know that. I get on the go, T Breezy. I'm like, hey, okay. But I do, seriously, in all seriousness, right? Because it's real. My car says it too, y'all. Okay, so good morning, T Breezy. Yeah, okay, but in all seriousness, I make it sound easy, but it is actually incredibly hard, because I do have to wake up every day and tell myself it's okay to go be you. Even when I've even taken on this role, and for the past year, and this is just more of a recent example, it is also, you have to have people in your life that remind you that it's okay to be you, and you don't have to go be like anybody else, and being you is enough. Whether that's my husband, again, I'm going to credit my boss. And just recently, we were going on the road, a year ago, and I've been doing it for a while now, going to speak to our investors, lots of them. And, I'm in there, and I'm like, I'm in a traditionally male-dominated industry. Thank God my sister-in-law over at DTE Energy, Joy Harris, yes, CEO over there. But, I'm like, oh gosh, I got to go talk to all these investors. White men, mostly, very, very few. So I'm in the room, and I'm looking at my boss, and he said, be you. Tell our company story in the way in which, because our investors are going to fall in love with you, just like our coworkers, our customers. He said, don't be me. Go be you and tell our story in the way. And so I go be me, and I talk to our investors. I said, well, look at that stock price. Got to be more careful, right? But it's not easy, right? But it is. I was like, it's going up. He said, we need to put you on the road more often because they like you being you. Yeah. And so it is a journey of every day. I'm not saying I'm comfortable with it, or I've just continued to grow with it, and I'm not finished yet, and continuing to be comfortable and being authentic. And once I try it and people received and accepted, I'm like, okay. And it just gives me a little bit more confidence in that space. But I'm going to say it's an ever-growing journey. I don't just always walk it like, ooh, I do have those questions. And I think it's okay for people to know that we are not perfect. We're imperfect humans growing towards, I think, every day to this level of perfection. So I still question myself, right? And I will tell you, the day I showed up, and it's validation from others that become helpful, too. The day I showed up with braids in my hair, and I got a call. I was on the company call with the CEO. I'm in there with braids on. Typically, I don't wear them, not because I don't love them. They just heavy, and I hate sitting waiting on them, but waiting to get them done and then getting them out, and that's just a whole thing, right? I like having my hair done in 5 minutes. But I'm sitting on a call with them. Didn't even know. I forgot I had braids in my hair, talking. After I got off that call, so many women start, oh my goodness, thank you for being up there wearing. I said, this is a deal. They said, we need you to do it more. I didn't even know. So then even the impact you make, I was like, I just showed up to work today, y'all. And I was on the whole video talking about my hair. I think my CEO was like, what is she doing really? But okay. I was like, I'm just having a whole conversation. But it is a confirmation, people being supportive. But I do every day, I got to go retell myself, it's okay to go be you. And if people don't like it, it's only one me, T Breezy or Tonya Berry. So good.
I don't think I could ever call you Tonya again.
T Breezy. Okay.
All right. So this is going to be the last question. This one will be for Lynn and for Melanie. As a woman in many leadership roles, right? There have been people that have helped you along that journey. We don't exist on islands, right? And so we're impressive. I'm including me with them now. we're impressive, but we didn't get here by ourselves. So if you could just speak to one person that has made a difference for you in your career journey.
One person.
Yeah, not a whole group, just one.
Maybe this is a dodge of the the question. I can't name one person professionally because there are so many people who've said my name in a room, but I will go back. I've mentioned her, this is probably the third time, to my grandmother, who emigrated to this country, moved to a community where literally people were throwing rocks at her and my grandfather and my mom and her siblings, and she stood strong. And she worked, like many people did, double shifts and saved and scrimped and took care of her children and set the path for not only my mom, but for the next generation, her grandchildren, and believing in ourselves. She's one of the people I mentioned. We didn't have internally in our family the funding for me to go to a very expensive college. And she kept working and found a way to help. She would send me granola bars to campus because she didn't know, like, all these things. Whatever she found, she's always shopping for deals to make sure that I could make it through. And so I think while she never was at the table for any interview or any promotion or saying my name in the professional settings, being able to witness her hard work growing up and then being able to feel her belief in me and her confidence in me and her the requirement that she put for me to both deliver and to pay for the investment she made on me, I think has to date surpassed any other impact anyone else has had in my career. And I think even when she's no longer here, just her memory is something that will push me forward.
Am I the only one that wants to meet Grandma?
Listen, Grandma Ginger.
Oh, she just sounds fantastic. Go ahead, Lynn.
I'll point to my mother. So my father escaped Vietnam the day Saigon fell to communists, and then my mother, who we didn't know, escaped from Laos in 1976, and then was in a Thai prison camp, and then a refugee camp, and then came to the U.S. My dad was part of the welcoming committee for the Lutheran Church that welcomed her. So my mother had to learn English as a fifth language. She was a middle school teacher in Laos and had to start over here. She had to, both of my parents, janitors, dishwashers, just survive, right? And then eventually my dad started going to community college and then Ohio State for engineering, finished in 3 years, chain smoking the entirety of the whole time to get through it, raising kids. And then it was my mom's turn. So my father supported my mother going to college. By then we had moved to Dearborn. Ford was the only company that would hire my father, who English is a third language for him. And my mother spent 8 years going through Henry Ford Community College and then U of M Dearborn. We all had to learn English together. We all went to the Henry Ford Public Library, the Centennial Library together, learn American literature, American history together. But it was my mother who, she worked so hard to make sure we were okay. And I joke a lot about how it took her so long to get through college. By the time she finished, I was a junior in high school, and I told her, I hope you finish so that I could go to college. I just really need you to finish so I could go to college. But she didn't have childcare. It was 2 little girls in the parking lot while she went in to take class, and she would tell us, look, if the police come, you just say your babysitter's inside and is coming right out. So you're just gonna read your books and stay here, right? She figured out how to navigate this country, navigate every system that worked against her. When people yelled at her to go back to where she came from, she would just tell them, oh, I don't speak English, in perfect English, right? And just walk away. She never let people have one over her. She's like, she taught us to never give people the satisfaction that they have power over you, right? And then she would just laugh things off, even though I know things, it would just hurt her deeply to see, my father struggling and just figuring out, what it means to be an engineer at Ford after being, a janitor, dishwasher. Like, how do you navigate these weird social norms, and how do you stay okay after coming through so much trauma, right? From war trauma. Multiple generations of my family have been through war. My grandfather was tortured by the French. In Vietnamese, we talk about how our people have been through 1,000 years of Chinese colonial rule, and then it was 100 years of the French, and then came the Japanese, and then it was Americans. It's this continuous fight. But all through it, we have women as caregivers, as fighters, as warriors, and I feel like if we remember who we come from and what we come from, we can dig deep into that muscle memory of surviving and thriving and insisting that we thrive.
Wonderful. All right, so we just clapped for Lynn, but I'm now going to ask you to clap for this entire panel. We're getting a standing ovation. Yes, they certainly deserve it. So we celebrate you and thank you for what you contributed and imparted into our lives today, but also for the work that you're doing every single day, what it has meant to so many people across the state, across this country. Your impact has ripple effects, and we appreciate you deeply. All right. So at this time, I'm going to ask, we were talking about people who have made an impact and have made a difference. I'm going to ask Glenn to come up and help us close. And I'll say that when we talk about people in the room, right? I can remember us being in a construction meeting, and they're having these conversations and they're talking about this stuff, and they thought that I was there as the fancy note taker, the secretary. And we're going through these plans, and they're like, well, Glenn, what should we do? We're talking about the mechanical, the electrical, plumbing. What should we do? What should we do? And Glenn looked at the contractor and he said, I don't know. What you need to do is ask her, because she's the engineer. And every face went, right? But it shifted the dynamic, and it showed me his level of support for women, his level of support for me, and also his commitment to this collective journey that we're on. And I will say that Glenn selected each of you to be a part of this conversation because he recognizes the amazing work that you're doing, but also your authenticity. So let's give another round of applause.
All right. Thank you so much once again. Give them a hand clap one more time. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you. It means the world that you all showed up, but that's what you guys do for so many others, right? You show up even when it's hard. I mean, people always can show up when it's a joyous occasion, right? It's so, you bring joy no matter where you go. She's like, I know. I tried. But the thing is, what you find out is that there are women in these spaces, and Vivian, you spoke to it, and which I always love how direct you are, because you and my daughter get along very well. But what happens is people get in spaces and they just sit there. They don't bring their whole authentic self to the table. They don't say things that need to be said. But then also as men, we have to be there when it's said to be able to take it in, listen, and be able to support it as well. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for coming. Get engaged with us. Spend your time, your talent, your treasure with us. Any way that you can, you have ways to get engaged. It does not have to stop here. We'll have more events and activities that's going on throughout the year. So if you did not sign up for our newsletter, if you're not on there, some of you that's getting our newsletters that's coming back to these events that we're having, they'll kick back off again next year. Thank you once again to our wonderful sponsors that sponsored this, so give them a hand clap. And for that is part of the reason why we were able to just offer this for a recommended donation of $25. We're not trying to create spaces that are inequitable for people. We're trying to create spaces that anybody can come, connect, and build community. So thank you so much again for coming. Thank you to my friends that popped in. Thank you so much. That means the world to me for those.